Sorry for the delays, nerds. I had a lot of things to do and still do, but I wanted to hang out and film some stuff and chill because why wouldn't I? What's up, nerds? How are y'all doing today? Don't good evening me. It's not even 2 o'clock here. Got a lot of y'all to thank. I'll do it in a sec. I'm going to dump my tea bag. I think I'm going to record or just do the offset right now. Offset 20. I'll do 21:15. Done. Nice. I am in utter chaos and also have to leave early for an event. We're going to film as much as we can up until then. Triforce shirt? It's a Huff shirt, but yes, it basically is a Triforce. That's rough to hear, NMG. Please don't gift subs when you don't have a way to get paid right now. This one, I had a concept for a video, but now I feel like I have to do it. Every AI tool keeps getting hacked. There's that one, and then there was an exploit for Atlas. Did that go public? Yeah. That could be fun. This looks like it could be interesting. I don't know if this is content necessarily, but I'll save it to look into later. Thank you for the drop. Ooh, boy. This seems very fun. I already had it saved. Let me resave it so it's at the top of my watch later. I also want to add this. Her primary sources. Okay. Thank you. I will replace that in here. There. Bounty video DEF CON made as well. Is the sub agents and Claude Code thing good enough to be worth doing something about? To be fair, I still use Next for a ton of things. Don't worry too much about it. So Anthropic and Apple are having issues with their services. Does anybody know what happened? Well, Anthropic's perpetually having issues with their services. So the only interesting thing here is Apple. I wouldn't conflate the two. We thank all the subs I missed when I was getting started. We got Sipo Parker starting us off with a 9-month prime. JD Paiva with the 5 months of support. Artem resubbing here for 9 months. 7 rounds of interviews at Google. They made a lowball offer and you felt like shit having spent 2.5 months in the process. You're employed at another cool place and all the stages took like 3 weeks. Happy ending. Until waiting for AI to end us all in 6 months. Happy that you pushed through, Artem. Congrats on the new role. Well deserved. And Mall7470 with the prime 1 year mark. Thank you for that. Cervantes X with the 31 months. Fucking legend. Januland here with the 33 months of support. Burning Phoenix with the prime for 2 months. Just Isabel with the 26 months of support. Furtive Spy with the 17. Mr. Bubbles with the 17. And Disco Option here with the 6 months. Happy you're enjoying the Sony headset. Oh boy, even more for Atlas getting hacked. Interesting. What if Cody is doing this? Neither did Hank. Lol. The treated with water, yeah. Yeah. I'm from a farm town. I earned the right to bitch about corn. Worked on a corn maze in a corn farm for my first like high school jobs. Interesting. I know Ben's been getting open code running on Daytona without too much issue. Yeah, Lunduke's been awful for like 10 plus years. I'm pumped everybody's finally realizing it. Yeah, what a fucker. Oh god, we've lost Maple to effect. I prefer to not think about Kubernetes, gamer girl. Sorry, YouTube. I don't know what the UCL is, so that's why I'm live streaming during it. Okay, so this every AI tool keeps getting hacked. Cloud Code sub agents thing's actually cool. Any other big things going on now? I have no idea what cub.dev is. Feels like it does too many things. Like supporting all of these outputs is a little scary to me. Like turning OpenAPI specs into MCPs as well as React Query and Zod and Faker. Little concerning. Yeah, YouTube chat's working again. The OpenBench is awesome. I know the guy who made it. He's a good friend. Handy computer. There's a lot of things like this. The amount of integration you have to do with random apps to make it pleasant is annoying, which is why I like Whisperflow so much. Speaking of which, like, oh, Whisperflow, some work. I need to get to them. The Devstral stuff, yeah, my issue about talking about Mistral stuff is that Mistral's so irrelevant that most people in the AI world just don't care. And the people who care the most are seemingly French people who are really mad at me for thinking that Mistral models are useless. And then there's the whole like history of their models where like Large 2 was a traditional like open weight, decent model at the time. Then DeepSeek came out and Mistral realized how screwed they were. They released multiple not open weight models that, as far as we understand, are distillations of DeepSeek models, which is why they never released the weights. They then finally came back and released weights again, and they did it under Apache license. Like, oh my God, they're doing real open weight models again. That's super cool. And they all bench like shit. And everybody's telling me, yo, Theo, you're wrong. Clearly, the reason the models are bad is because they're the instruct version. Once they put out better versions that are more meant for actual work, they'll be so much better. And then they put out the DevStral models with a modified MIT license that says if you make any real money, you're not allowed to use them. So, like, it's really weird. They went from an okay model that was truly open source to a better model that was a refinement on DeepSeek that was entirely closed, to an instruct model that is truly open again but is incredibly dumb, to a dev model that seems okay but is half closed again. It's just such a weird pile of things. There's a really good tweet someone had that's like, imagine if OpenAI, when they released the 20 bill and 120 bill open weight models, the 20 bill was an Apache licensed open weight model, and the 120 bill had a bunch of weird clauses added to it. We would be talking nonstop shit at OpenAI for that. But when Mistral does it, no one cares. His theory is because we're being too nice to Mistral and too hard to everybody else. My theory is nobody gives a fuck about Mistral. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on Mistral. I'm not going to do a video on that. Yeah. I already have this one saved. Actually, is this one different? Yeah, it is. Cool. Yeah. Like, yeah. Did he ratio the original post? Yeah, cool. I am rating that. After my tweet, he followed you. That's not fair. I think it's fair. It's fine. I'm just jealous. People are mad here that I'm complaining about a company continuing to flaunt about being the open AI. Like, if they didn't buy fucking billboards in my city that said they're the truly open AI company and then immediately put out closed weight models for the next 6 months, then I would talk a lot less shit. They are LARPing as open source, and I will continue to make fun of them for that until they stop. Thank you, thank you, Mike P. Funk for the 10 months and Joe Simo for the 6. I want to find the HN top posts thing. It's is it one of these? I don't think it's the show HN one. Miss anything big? This could actually be fun. I think I just want to read this for fun later. The Theo fandom, we do need a good term. The component authoring for convex is really cool. I was surprised they didn't have it, but it's awesome they do now. I did see Prime's video on the get up sleep thing. I was curious why it was doing so well. It's a good video, interesting problem. Not something I care enough about to talk about. I kind of want to do with like a general, the slow decay of GitHub thing. Good to see you again, Gamer Girl. Happy you can work on that streak. Yeah, I saw the debug mode dropped. I haven't had a chance to try it yet. Oh, glorp. Thank you, Furman _ for the sub as well. And CD Dev, thank you for the 38 months legend. Search queries in the HTML titles. Doesn't put your search query in the HTML titles. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's quite annoying. Thought this is cool, but not as implemented as well as I was hoping. I've seen a lot of people talking about how it's not quite good enough. I think fluid compute's a better bet for a lot of the use cases that I and people I know have. CSS wrapped. This looks fun, actually. This is free content. Fuck yeah. If I do this, it's a high priority. Yes, and I think they have a 1 year free for Cursor. I'm not sure. I haven't seen... Oh, for Advent of Code. Yeah, it was rough. Yeah, adding moving is terrifying, but also pretty promising. Saw this forever ago. I don't know how much effort it's getting put into it, being that the last commits were like 3 months ago. Bash was not meant for most of the things you use it for, Bad Cop. The Apple Exodus is... It could be, but it's so much speculation. I don't like going into topics that are that much speculation and also will involve me glazing Tim Cook that much. My hot take is a good portion of this is Tim Cook doing one last purge before handing over the CEO role and leaving. I definitely have to do the Anthropic gives MCP to Linux thing. I don't think I'm going to do a dedicated video on the Rust on Linux thing, but I did want to talk about it at least a little bit. And yeah, I know Linux Foundation isn't Linux, but I got to clickbait a little bit, you know? Wait, Bash, Bad Cop. How do you feel about so many of these AI harnesses for doing agentic coding and stuff, primarily working in Bash as their way of doing things on the system? It would actually be really funny to have a normal dev, Bad Cop, and an AI agent seeing who can solve problems in Bash the most effectively. You know the meme that's like, at the Olympics, they should have a normal person like running the race along with the Olympians so you can compare them to what a normal person is like. If you were to have Bad Cop and AI writing really complex, obnoxious bash stuff, you would need a normal person next to them to appreciate just how absurd it is. You actually finished it? God damn it. Did you have to write like Z3 in fucking bash? What are you doing? The Anthropic Interviewer. This is funny because Claude.ai is not going to get you a good inbound. I was trying it yesterday to do, no, it wasn't, it was a few days ago I opened it and I had like 15 errors in the corner and undismissible dialogue. It was so bad. It was so fucking bad. Oh, is the state of AI open router thing interesting enough to cover? This could actually be fun. Yeah, I think that'll be a vid. I don't think this will be. Something I want to read later, but not a vid. Man, I wish I had the time to like sit and read still. Yeah. I'm at the point where I don't want to acknowledge Lunduke. I made a really good Lunduke meme yesterday and just passed it on to a friend to post, so I didn't have to. You might have seen it. You've probably seen it. I like Helium a lot when I'm not screen recording. I like Zen a lot when I am. I also like Zen's UX a little better overall. I really like the way the sidebar works and having my hotkey for all that. If you don't know what a Lunduke is, you're lucky. It's funny. I have quietly been hating on that fucker for years, and now I've like been squared in, like he's focused on me specifically. But I'm done. I'm probably just gonna block him and refuse to interact going forward. He's such a fucking useless troll. What is this? Excited to see where that comes out. Benel's talking about how he likes Dia over Zen. Very interesting. Yeah, sorry for not paying attention to YouTube chat today. There's a new SF Fredigan video. Interesting. I'll take a look at that. Yep. Agreed, S. John. Yeah, the Zen team, the fact that Zen has made Firefox as usable as they have is an achievement that I would immediately acquire them if I had any need for a browser team. Like if I was OpenAI, they would be one of the first things I'd acquire for sure. Thank you, Vanderlyn42, for the 2 months of support. I'm not a big fan of local first, so it's not a thing I talk to them about. W3M's a good browser, goddamn. I owe Anessa a reply on Slack right now about Context 7, so I don't have much to say about it right now. I have a whole video about all of the browsers and what I do and don't like about them. You should go watch it. It's still pretty accurate. I did see the artificial analysis agentic framework. They hit us up about it right when they dropped it. It's super Python-y, so not necessarily my favorite thing. I'm thinking with what we have here, this I'm just gonna kill. It's too late. Dead. As I want to do eventually, but I want to do a little more. This and this are pretty high pry. These are all mid pry. This I still really, really want to do. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I think we should just gun these out because I only have to like 5:30 or so. We got 3 hours. We got to go hard. I think MCP going to Linux is probably the best starting point. Do I need to talk about the OpenAI certifications? Because this is hilarious. Is that a bad double space? At least it's not AI generated, right? Ugh. Another thing I want to do. I just want to bitch about how Gemini 3 kind of sucks. I don't think I have enough to say about the certifications. I don't think that'll be a video. This is for the vibes are off. So many fucking messages today is going to be obnoxious. Okay. Let's I both defend OpenAI more than most people and talk shit more than most people by quite a bit. Also building autonomous. I've heard really good things about this paper. I think I already have it bookmarked, but I'll make sure I do. They're making Dota 2 bots or something. Interesting. I honestly feel like the 3 soda models are all really good for UI now, like between GPT 5.1, Gemini 3 Pro, and Claude 4.5 Opus. They're all pretty damn good at it now. Gemini 3, I would say overall, it's best at UI. In particular, weird things like shitty frameworks or Phaser or 3JS and stuff, it's better at than most. But it also lives in its own little world, and you really feel that as you start building more stuff with it. This one, oh yeah, that was that. Moving up next, Yeah, we went to Tansac Start. Video is probably going to go live today. Oh, I almost forgot. I need to text Ben a thing. Cool. Um, okay, let's start with the Anthropic MCP Linux thing. That's interesting. I've been doing this for a while. Oh, the model's voting. Yeah, I played with this a bit. I have my own version of that I want to go a little harder on. I might make that a whole video too, though. Like, I made the models rank each other's writing thing. I just need a good way to package it. Thing I have to do, like, I made these models better by combining them. Let me, let's get started with this. Marker MCP goes to Linux. Let's go straight to it. How do I want to open this one? It's a tough one to open. Yeah. As y'all probably know by now, I kind of love bullying Anthropic. As great as their models can be, they have their weird behaviors and things that I just don't love about how the company operates. One of those things in particular is the way they treat open source. I've never been super fond of it, but they recently acquired Bun, the JavaScript runtime that I do dearly love, both the framework and the runtime itself, as well as the team building it. And it seems like with this acquisition, a new focus on open source is happening, which is why this announcement, as crazy as it is actually quite cool. Anthropic just donated the model context protocol to the Anthropic just donated the model context protocol to the new Agentic AI Foundation. If you're curious what this is, spoiler, it's a new fund that was just formed under the Linux Foundation. Yes, really. The Linux Foundation are now the owners of the model context protocol. This is a fascinating new development, both the creation of this new agentic group within Linux Foundation, but also MCP becoming a more open standard that exists in an external entity instead of just being part of Anthropic. This is super, super exciting stuff. Projects like this are only possible because projects like this are only possible because well-funded companies like Anthropic, Block, OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon support them. But we need support too, so let's do a quick word from today's sponsor. Cool. Seems like a good Twitter sentiment on this. Donating the Model Context Protocol and establishing the Agentic AI Foundation. Today, we're donating the MCP to the Agentic AI Foundation, AIF, a directed fund under the Linux Foundation, which is co-founded by Anthropic, Block, and OpenAI, with support from Google, Microsoft, Amazon, has support from Google, Microsoft, AWS, Cloudflare, and Bloomberg. One of these things is not like the others. Bloomberg's code discipline in particular is actually really good. Their TypeScript stuff is incredible. Oh, gamer girl, don't get me started on ModView on mobile. I have so many stories. I built ModView on desktop. I slaved over it, and the mobile version was supposed to be really good, but we couldn't make anything happen. Also, thank you for this. For the better. I forgot that I thought MCP was a little more than a year old. Is that really right? November 2024. Wow. Yeah. It's 1 year later. That's crazy. Almost to the dot. 1 year ago, Anthropic introduced MCP as a universal open standard for connecting AI applications to external systems. Notably, connecting and external systems, implying that the server that you're connecting to is expected to be live and maintain a connection during the entire session, which makes it really annoying to deploy and adopt. There's a couple cool new companies working on figuring out solutions to that now, but yeah, the way MCP is implemented is really focused on making the agent side as easy as possible, not on making the developer implementation side on the other end as easy as possible, or really viable at all. MCP has achieved incredible adoption. There are over 10,000 active public MCP servers covering everything from developer tools to Fortune 500 deployments. Across platforms, MCP has been adopted by ChatGPT, Cursor, Gemini, Copilot, Visual Studio Code, and other popular AI products. Enterprise-grade infra now exists with deployment support for MCP from providers including AWS, Cloudflare, Google Cloud, and Azure. It does make sense that the big clouds would want to be part of this. It's also nice having them supporting Linux Foundation more. If you're not already familiar with Linux Foundation, no, they're not like the people who make Linux. It's a little more complex than that. The Linux Foundation is an attempt to take a lot of like open source work and orchestrate it while also getting money in memberships from big companies to try and make sure the direction of all of these important big open source projects continues to make sense for how everybody is using them. What even is OJS Foundation? I know of it. I just am curious what their technical role right now is. Not that interesting. Yeah. They have a fascinating set of projects, including, of course, the Linux kernel, RISC-V, and PyTorch. So the things underneath them are really important and fascinating. And if you guys remember the chaos around licensing for Redis, when that all happened and companies like Microsoft and Azure as well, or if you guys remember the chaos around Redis where they changed the license and suddenly, if you guys remember the chaos around Redis, remember when they changed the license and suddenly all the other providers that hosted it had to like not do that or use an old version? When that happened, both AWS and Microsoft put a lot of money in order to fund the development of a fork called Valkey that included a bunch of the original maintainers of Redis as well as people maintaining it at Azure and at AWS. They then, instead of trying to run this independently and separately, donated it to the Linux Foundation alongside, I'm sure, more donations. The result being the Linux Foundation now owning a good open standard for Redis-style use cases that is truly open and will stay open. I don't think there's any example of something that went to the Linux Foundation to be a well-maintained open source project, then locking down, which is a big reason why Anthropic would be interested in this. There's always fear that an open standard could get closed. And the way you counter that is going really far alongside it, which is what happened here. Since there's now concern about Redis potentially changing its license and the rug pull that can occur, the alternative to that isn't another thing that can be rug pulled. It's to throw it at Linux Foundation so it will be there, hypothetically speaking, forever. A lot of the things Linux Foundation maintains are things that just have existed forever and probably will as well. there a link to the Agentic AI Foundation stuff? It's also worth noting that the Linux Foundation has other sub-foundations that they help operate as well, like the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, OpenJS Foundation. What's this one again? The Open Source Security Foundation, and more. There's a lot of these foundations that they help manage and run. Is OpenSearch their attempt to do Elasticsearch? Because I know that they had an Elasticsearch alternative at some point as well. Regardless, a new one has just been dropped, which is the Agentic AI Foundation, which is one of the Linux Foundation projects. The AIF provides a neutral open source foundation to ensure the critical capability evolves transparently, collaboratively, and in ways that advance the adoption of leading open source AI projects. It is kind of funny that the Open Linux Foundation Agentic AI Foundation is funded by the companies doing all of the closed weight models. Like, has Anthropic released any open weight anything in the last 3 to 4 years? I'm pretty sure no. OpenAI just recently did one, but you would expect a Mistral or a DeepSeek to be here, but they also don't have the funding to justify it. It is cool to see, though. They now have MCP as well as Goose, which is an open source extensible AI agent that goes beyond code suggestions. Interesting. And Agents MD they also own. Very interesting, actually. I did not realize that Agents MD was big enough to go to a foundation like this, but that does make sense. And I've seen more and more cool uses of Agents MD files. So this is cool. Oh, interesting. Goose is by Block. If you're not familiar with Block, they are a company that owns a lot of different things. They own Square, Cash App. They bought Tidal, which is close to my heart, as well as a few other things. It was founded by the original founder of Twitter. Cool-ish company. No issues with them. It's cool seeing them doing more open source stuff like this. Wait, no way. No way. Yeah, I know Rizal. She's great. That's so cool. I had no idea she was at Block now. That makes a ton of sense. Good for her. You wrote a blog? How to stop your AI from making unwanted changes. Cool. It's actually really cool. Good stuff. Local AI agent autonomously engineering tasks seamlessly. This is a good set of things. It's cool to see something like this forming now. It's a weird set of projects. You have a markdown file standard. You have an actual big open source AI agent toolkit, and then MCP, which is a protocol for interfacing with agentic stuff. Very interesting set of things, especially when you look at the set of members that they have. The Block membership makes much more sense now. Seems like they kind of want to pawn Goose off there, but also the Block founders have always been very, very pro open source things, so it does make a lot of sense there. Back to the article. Oh, they have a whole fancy little timeline of the history of MCP here. Early adoption from Cursor and other AI tools back in December to February. They presented it at the MCP was presented at the AI Engineering Summit. There was 2,000 public MCP servers at the time. A second spec came out, which included enterprise auth, HTTP streaming, multimodal content, but also the enterprise auth solution they picked was lackluster at best. It's my understanding that they used an existing HTTP standard for auth that had never really been implemented by anyone. That kind of sucks. And as such, it was not something many people did. It's also funny that 1,000 people register for the MCP night in San Francisco because that's happening again tonight, and I will be there. That's why I'm ending stream early. At this point, they had 4,000 public MCP servers. Then June to July, the third spec came out with structured outputs, which is essential to have the MCP actually output things in a consistent shape, interactive prompts, as well as hardened security. They also introduced the MCP directory, and 2,000 people took part in the Agents Hackathon. Then enterprise MCP hosting started happening on Google Cloud, Azure, and Cloudflare. MCP Dev Summit sold out in London. This is also around when we started to see these the pushback on the idea that MCP is a thing that is just how models will do application development and application style work make less and less sense. And that's when I did the videos about the Cloudflare article about turning MCPs back into code and then letting the agents write code to execute instead. Watch those videos if you haven't and you want to better understand the things I don't like about MCP as well as how we can take advantage of the standard more effectively. This is interesting, though. I also don't think the growth is that impressive. From like the first 2 months, they got 2,000 servers. And then over the next 10 months, they got another 8,000. That's relatively linear growth. I'm once again going to run a poll. Do you use MCP? Yes, a lot. Greater than 5 servers. Yes, a bit. Less than 5 servers. Not really. Nope. Not really. Tried, not useful. I'll change it to tried but churned. I should have put a just context 7 option. I'll do another poll after for that. Yeah. Gave up on context 7, which is the only MCP I was trying to use after the last poll in chat. Yeah. The use case I see for it, funny enough, is much stronger locally. I've yet to find many MCPs that are useful if you run them remotely. Like there's the Mac MCP that lets you control your Mac. Oh, of course, Supermemory are the ones doing it. Yeah. This is, the Mac MCP is pretty cool. The point of it is that you can control features on your Mac via MCP. There's a bunch of TypeScript code written to do things on your Mac, exposed over a local server that your AI agents can call and do things like send texts or update your notes, touch your contacts. I'm gonna mute this, but
and then you go developer edit.
Cool mute work. And here you can see in Darvia's example, he tells it to send a message. This is a test to somebody. And then it will use the Apple MCP server that it require. You have to hit allow once or allow always. And now it's running behind the scenes on his Mac, doing the things that he requested, which is pretty cool. But those are the use cases that I think are the most valid right now due to the strangeness of how the protocol is implemented. There's also like the Ableton MCP. If you're a music nerd, it's pretty cool. I cut this when I had the poll up earlier. According to my audience, 56% of people don't use MCP. 16% tried and churned. 25% use it a bit. And 4% use it a lot. It's kind of crazy how close a bit of use and tried and churned are. But this is my experience too. I just have not found many use cases for MCP in my day-to-day usage. Ableton MCP is another very fun one. It's for controlling the Ableton Live digital audio workstation. It's a very common tool for producing music, and Ableton MCP lets you modify your project in Ableton using Model Context Protocol. But once again, since you have to run a full dedicated server for this to work, you have to set up the Smithery CLI, install this MCP, and specify the client is Claude. You probably have to install UV as well because it's all a Python server. And then spin it up and run it locally in the background. Because like MCP can't execute things that it doesn't have. It is effectively an HTTP server that is exposing specific behaviors to a model and allowing for it to stay connected to this server so it can do things and get data and make changes. Another notable thing about these examples is none of them require complex auth stories, because auth is one of the most annoying nightmares across all of these things. I don't even know if you can auth an MCP server in Cursor. Oh, fun. You have to hard code the tokens, or you can pull them from environment in the definition that you paste in for the project. Fascinating. Yeah, it's cool they do support it now. You also have to manually toggle the features that you do and don't want it to have access to on and off. Fun. You couldn't tell, I don't use MCP and Cursor a whole bunch because I don't use MCP a whole bunch. You can also return images as long as they're base 64. Fun. Man, what an interesting standard. Back to the article, because there are more important pieces here. We're continuing to invest in MCP's growth. Claude now has a directory tool with over 75 connectors, which are powered by MCP, and they recently launched the tool search and programmatic tool calling capabilities in their API. I like that they worded this carefully so they don't have to call it the tool search tool, as they have been constantly. They did tool search and programmatic tool calling capabilities, which helps with production scale MCP deployments, handling thousands of tools efficiently and reducing latency and complex agent workflows. Yeah, that's a big step. It feels like Anthropic recognizes that improving the standard is not necessarily within their area of expertise. And instead of trying to patch it again and again, it is much more efficient for them to hand it off to a better open standards committee that can be designed. I know design by committee is terrible, but for things that are standards that are going to be adopted by many, it makes a lot more sense. Make the standard external so it can be iterated on, developed, and owned safely, openly, and externally, and continue building the new features on top. It definitely seems like their recent interest has less been in changing how MCP works and more in building things around it. Like if we go back to the timeline, they got early adoption, they presented it, they released the second spec, which included the auth stuff. Then in June and July, they did the third spec with structured outputs, interactive prompts, and hardened security. And since then, a lot of the new stuff isn't really part of the spec. Like discovery isn't really part of the spec for MCP. Async tasks are, but are more like an implementation detail on the thing consuming. And agentic sampling, I don't even know what they mean by that. Interesting. Sampling allows for the server to reverse request back to the model to do a thing. So if you're using Opus 4.5 and it uses the MCP for, I don't know, doing a query against your database to get some data, and then your code realizes, because you wrote the code this way, that it has to have the right SQL to generate, it can forward back that request to the model to generate the SQL string that it has to run. I've never seen anyone using this. This is really interesting too. There's a hints section, which is an array of arbitrary JSON objects by the looks of it, but there's separately this intelligence priority and speed priority things that are top level keys, which means that they're probably part of the spec. Man. Yeah, you can see that the chaos that is this diagram. Server initializes sampling. Wait, doesn't the human I guess this is starting later in the flow. The server initializes the sampling with the sampling create message. A human can review that request. They're presented the request for approval. They could request a modify or just approve it. And then it forwards that request to the LLM, returns a generation. You can review the response. The response is presented to the human for approval. And if they approve it, it gets sent back to the client, which then sends it back to the server to continue. Man. When I say it feels like all of this is chaotically over-engineered, do you understand? It is also kind of chaotic that the client in this case is something like if you use the Claude AI desktop app or if you use Cursor, the server is sending a request to the client that the user then approves so the client can then resend it to the LLM. This weird graph of where everything lands is just strange. It can also request images back and audio. This feels like a standard looking for a problem still. Like, who's going to implement this? Like, what tools exist right now where if I wrote my MCP server to then request an image back to the client that will handle that properly? I just don't think there's going to be many. Oh, and then, yeah, these are standard. Cost priority, speed priority, and intelligence priority. Cost priority, higher values prefer cheaper models. Speed, higher prefers faster. And intelligence, higher prefers more capable. And the values, by the way, are between 0 and 1. Great. Then the hints allow servers to suggest specific models or model families. Again, they had Claude 3 Sonnet, and then Claude as a fallback. Yeah, interesting. So yeah, that is a new part of the standard. It's not one I've heard anyone talking about, but they did add something. But it does generally feel like the standard in the spec has less been Anthropic's focus and more the things they're building around it, which makes the punting of it off as they build new tools on top of it make more and more sense. It is also, like, to be fair, a really good faith play to say we're not just building MCP for our own use cases and tricking you all to build on top of it. They do clearly want MCP to be a winning open standard. I have no reason to believe that any of their way of doing this is malicious. I still have my skepticism around MCP, but I don't think they're doing this because they're dumb or evil. I think they do genuinely believe this is an important thing to exist and that it is the best chance we have at an open standard for AI to do things on real systems. Still kind of crazy that they're making this so open and Claude code is still closed source, and they've sent as many DMCAs as they have to GitHub about people who shared the source maps for Claude code when they leaked them in their own package when they deployed it. Just saying. The Linux Foundation and the Agentic AI Foundation. The Linux Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to fostering the growth of sustainable open source ecosystems through neutral stewardship, community building, and shared infrastructure. It has decades of experience stewarding the most critical and globally significant open source projects, including Linux, Kubernetes, Node.js, and PyTorch. Yeah, Node is technically part of it too, which is nuts. Importantly, the Linux Foundation has a proven track record in facilitating open collaboration and maintaining vendor neutrality. Yes, absolutely yes. Node runs just as well everywhere, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Like, you all know how much people complain about Next.js being easiest on Vercel. Node works everywhere. Other than Cloudflare, kind of. But you get the point. Node is a very much supported standard that works equally well pretty much everywhere. It's really cool that that's proven. Same with Linux kernel. I would imagine a significant portion, if not the majority of the money that Microsoft makes on Azure right now is going through Linux systems. The Agentic AI Foundation is a directed fund under the Linux Foundation, co-founded by Anthropic, Block, and OpenAI, with support from all the other companies I mentioned before. The AIF aims to ensure agentic AI evolves transparently, collaboratively, and in the public interest through strategic investment, community building, and shared development of open standards. The idea of agentic AI evolving transparently by making MCP an open standard is an interesting thing. I would imagine that transparent evolution of AI and agentic work would involve more transparency around how the models are being trained, which none of the labs are willing to do. Some deeply skeptical part of me wants to see this as an attempt to look more transparent when they are more than ever closing off their research and work so people can't copy their details. But I do really want to read this in good faith because there's no reason not to, at this point at least. I'll be keeping my eye on it. And now the donating MCP section. Anthropic's donating the Model Context Protocol to the Linux Foundation's new Agentic AI Foundation, where it will join Goose by Block and AgentsMD by OpenAI as founding projects. I didn't know AgentsMD was OpenAI. That does make sense. Bringing these and future projects under the AIF will foster innovation across the agentic AI ecosystem, as well as ensuring that these foundational technologies remain neutral, open, and community-driven. The MCP's governance model will remain unchanged. The project's maintainers will continue to prioritize community input and transparent decision-making. There is a lot of work on this. I've seen so many issues that are hundreds upon hundreds of replies deep, as well as their shared Discord server. They are trying to make it better. I've had a lot of people, like more so than almost anything I've complained about, I've had a lot of people who are part of the MCP spec and standards committee replying and reaching out, trying to figure things out, especially the auth thing, because it seems like the auth stuff's a total disaster. The future of MCP. Open source software is essential for building a secure and innovative ecosystem for agentic AI. Today's donation to the Linux Foundation demonstrates our commitment to ensuring MCP remains a neutral, open standard. We're excited to continue contributing to MCP and other agentic AI projects through the AIF. Yeah, this is cool. If they want to prove that it's an open standard, they did it right. But it also kind of seems like Anthropic can only have one open source project at a time. And now they have realized that, and now that they have Bun as their big open source project, MCP has been moved away. Yeah. Anything in here I want to do? OpenAI's article about this foundation has even more interesting stuff. I'm going to read this a little too. The AIF is designed to provide neutral stewardship for open interoperable infrastructure and agentic AI systems. Similar blurb here. It is cool that they're calling out that they're working with Anthropic and Linux Foundation, Block, all of them. I've never seen OpenAI call out Anthropic as a supporter and Anthropic call out OpenAI in matching articles the same day. Weird to see this much alignment and genuine collaboration on the standards here. Why open standards matter. Developers are rapidly adopting AI to build more capable agentic systems, from coding assistants to workflow automation and customer service agents. In 2025, these systems have begun to move from prototypes into tools that handle real work in business and consumer settings. We believe the transition from experimental agents to real-world systems will best work at scale if there are open standards that help make them interoperable, like a standard for a markdown file. Open standards make agents safer, easier to build, and more portable across tools and platforms, and they help prevent the ecosystem from fragmenting as the new category matures. As more agents begin handling real responsibility, the cost of fragmentation increases. Without common conventions and neutral governance, agent development risks diverging into incompatible silos that limit portability, safety, and progress. If you were around for the early web days between like the 15 different attempts to do dynamic web apps, I see why jumping on this early is a thing they're all focused on. Agents SDK isn't open source, is it? This is not the GitHub repo. That was a lie. Okay, yeah, this is here. What is the license? MIT? Is it standard MIT? It is. Cool. Yeah. OpenAI's history with the Agents SDK, Apps SDK, and Agentic Commerce Protocol is cited here as proof that they really want to contribute to these building blocks and open standards. And Codex CLI was a pretty baller move. When they dropped that as an open source project, I was surprised. I did not see that coming, especially after how strictly Claude Code has stayed closed source. It's a baller move on their part. And then they did the GPT OSS models, which, believe it or not, I'm still using GPT 120 Bill quite a bit. It runs really well on my laptop, too. Is the Apps SDK open source as well? There's no way. These are just examples. Yeah, that's what I thought. The Apps SDK is not open source. Also, to give Anthropic a little more grace here, the Apps SDK and the idea of apps in ChatGPT was so hyped when they announced it, and I haven't seen anyone use it for anything. Like, not a single thing. Apparently, the UI portion is open source, but yeah, no one's using it. I don't care. They've been early adopters and core contributors to MCP, incorporating it as a foundation for connectors and apps in ChatGPT. Just last week, they announced a collab with Anthropic and MCP UI to extend the Apps SDK to all MCP developers through MCP apps. Oh, great. They're combining the two standards I don't like. And they donated AgentsMD. AgentsMD has been adopted by more than 60,000 open source projects and agent frameworks, including AMP, Codex, Cursor, Devin, Factory, Gemini CLI, GitHub Copilot, Jules, and VS Code, among others. Jules mentioned, that's Google's agentic coding tool that nobody knows about. There's also a bunch of other things they're not calling out here. Like, I know that CodeRabbit and Graptile both use AgentsMD very well as well, which is super helpful during code review steps. It's cool that we don't have the problem that we have with a JavaScript project. Like, let me open Cursor quick. You know, the classic config hell. Look at all these dot files. The .envs, .gitignore, and vmrc, oxlint, prettier rc, components JSON, nip JSON, agentmd, all these things. It is pretty cool that the agentmd is now just one file that works with everything, and we're not going to have as bad of config hell. Like, there was a bit where you had to have the cursor MD, cursor rules, agentmd, windsurf's equivalent, and like 15 other things. AgentsMD has been standardized enough that like everyone uses it. That said, different tools benefit from different types of instructions, which it varies. Still overall a very good thing, especially if more and more of these tools adjust to follow the AgentMD standard better. Yeah. This seems cool. I really like this type of collaboration and alignment. I think it leads towards better things happening. I really like the idea of the Agentic AI Foundation, where if a thing becomes popular enough that is meant to be open, the Linux Foundation can now own it as part of the AAIF. This makes a ton of sense. I wish I had more negative to say because it's fun, but this is a good thing. This is the best future for MCP. This is a really good thing for all of these standards, and it makes the future of agentic AI tooling much, much safer and potentially much better. Curious what y'all think, though. Am I way too excited about this, or is this just another weird MCP thing? Let me know what y'all think, and until next time, peace, nerds. Cool. Thank you, Littlefinger, for the resub. Appreciate that a ton. I think I got you, Vanderlyn. Either way, appreciate you. You guys getting submitted is pretty cool as well. Cool. How is let me grab this link as well for the description. Honestly, I don't need the tweet. I think the thing the tweet links to is better. Delete that. Cool. I don't even know where to start with this one, man. Should you be concerned that your file's too big? Yes. Are the concerns you have right now valid? No. The JSX file isn't what gets loaded in the browser. It gets turned into a JS file or a set of JS files alongside your dependencies that get loaded. Doesn't really matter. Your code gets bundled into 1 to 3 files anyways. But yeah, I'm concerned because your concerns are wrong, as Nick said here. Find smarter devs to work with, learn from them, make mistakes, let them grill you, file pull requests on things that are made by people you know, and learn lessons. Like, this to me screams, I don't have smarter devs around to help guide me towards the right direction, which is a thing that happens to a lot of people. It sucks, but like, find ways to work with other smart devs so that you can learn these things more effectively. Otherwise, you're kind of screwed. Anytime. Cool. Am I not following them? Fine. I think this is a good start. Let's go right into it. Okay, let's go right in. Yeah. I have a confession to make. I've been trying Claude Code a lot more, and I'm kind of impressed. And with today's update that they just dropped, with async agents, instant compaction, customer session names, and a couple other useful things, this is a really good update, especially these top 2 things. They're making it so that especially these top 2 pieces, they make it so Claude Code can run on much longer and harder tasks, and it's been really fun to play with. I'm super excited to break down, or I want a little more for the intro. Seriously, this async subagent stuff is something I've wanted for a long time, and I've had a lot of friends building their own solutions and spinning things up. If you watch my How I Code with AI video, I show my own similar solution to this that's a lot more hand-holdy. This is really promising, though. I can't wait to show you guys this, and I want to burn a lot of tokens as I do it, so let's have a quick sponsor to cover the bill. Cool. The subagents and instant compaction are the things I'm most excited about, and I cannot wait to play with them. Let's do it. Claude update. Make sure we're on the latest. Make a fresh window here. Oh, let me hide some things. I want to find a fun project to run this on. Let me sure get status. That's all cool. Oh, it's all good. Let's proceed. So I'm not on a subscription plan for Claude Code. I'm still using it over the API billing. So we'll get to see how much this actually costs with the tokens. Should be fun. I'm currently in Snitchbench, and I want to make some changes to Snitchbench. I'm going to give it a hard one. Right now, when I run Snitchbench, it runs against everything, and it just logs everything one line at a time. Like, I'll just show you what it looks like to run quick. Bun run. Wait, why did that cost me money? I didn't do anything. I opened it and it cost me almost 2 cents. This is why we had the sponsor spot, if you were curious. We're going to have to move to 2 per video at this rate. Let's try again. Hopefully this time it won't waste a bunch of my money. Like, why did it have 1,000 input tokens? Is that just like, there isn't even AgentsMD in this directory, I don't think. I don't even have an AgentsMD. What the fuck was it analyzing? Wait, I was going to actually run the project. Bun run index TS. So here you see how it runs. It just runs against the API. You see all the tests that are running. And it's not great. It's fine. But there's other things I want to do here. I want a better UI in particular. I would like to overhaul the CLI, UI, and UX for this project. Ideally, we would show a table that has every model in a row, showing success, fail rates, average time to complete, and average cost. I think I have costs built into here right now. I might not. Write me a plan for implementing all of this. You should probably use Ink for the UI UX portion, but I'm down for other suggestions. Okay, so ask if I want to do plan mode. Cool, we'll do plan mode. I didn't grab my boba. Give me 1 sec, guys. Oops, wrong foot pedal. Do I want to proceed, let it read the metrics file? Sure. Sure. Interesting that it's already doing subagent stuff. It's spinning up 3 subagents to look for information in the code base. There's actually a cool example of it already working. I didn't have to turn anything on or do anything specific. I know it's using Sonnet, not Opus. Maybe I'll switch it in a bit. Actually, I'll do it now. Oh, wait till it asks us follow-up questions. I just want to see the workflow. Interesting. This is actually a cool view. You have to pick your answer for each of these problems. 1 row per model or 1 row per model plus test combo. I think 1 row per model is fine. Real-time updates, absolutely. Is the cost data provided by Open Router? Let me figure out how I did this in Skatebench quick. 1 sec, to not leak things when I do this. Cool, that's fine. Do this by passing that to the provider options for all models when defined in the constants file. Include cinching metrics? No, not for now. Submit. Cool. Now spinning up another sub agent, this time the plan agent. This is too tempting. I have to abuse this and see how it works more. CD sandbox, make deer play with CC. Quad. Yes. Make me a beautiful HTML page that shows all of the tools and sub agents you have access to. Web search, Open Router, AI, SDK provider, usage tracking tokens. Sure, I'll let it search for that. Go nuts. I will say that one of the benefits of the terminal tools compared to things in your editor is it feels more like I can do things in parallel here because I can use my terminal's window management. I've been a Tmux guy my whole life. I am trying right now to wean my addiction by just using the built-in tab management in Ghosty. And it's been tough for me. I'm struggling. I really miss my Tmux right now. I will also say from my experience, the web search in Claude Code has not been the best. OpenAI search still feels the best overall to me, but I've been trying a lot of other things. People are saying, what's wrong with Tmux? Nothing is wrong with Tmux. There's a lot wrong with other people's CLI tools expecting more control over the window than they have through Tmux. Just weird flickering and things that happen because I use it so heavily. Yes, allow it to do whatever. This is one of my favorite tricks for figuring out what stuff an AI coding agent has access to. I learned this one from our friend. I learned this trick from our friend Simon Willison, one of the best AI blogs. And here we have all of the things that Claude Code has access to. It has 19 tools and 5 subagents. A general purpose subagent, Explore, Plan, Claude Code Guide, which is a specialized agent for questions about Claude Code features, Claude Agent SDK, and the Claude API. So use this one if you have questions about the Claude Code Guide. As well as the status line setup for configuring Claude Code status line settings. Interesting. I'm assuming that's the bar at the bottom. And here's all of the main tools it has. Read, edit, write, and notebook edit. Special edit tool for Jupyter Notebook, because Jupyter Notebook is special. Search has glob, grep, web search, and web fetch separately to fetch from a URL. Execution is bash, bash output, kill shell in order to kill processes, / command, and skill. Fun. Task management has task, agent output tool to do write, enter plan mode, and exit plan mode. And it can also use the ask user question tool to ask questions for us to follow up on. Fascinating. How did the CLI? Oh, CLI overhaul is still going. Cool. While that's going on, I want to read their subagent thing here. Custom subagents in Claude Code are specialized AI assistants that can be invoked to handle specific types of tasks. They enable more efficient problem solving by providing task-specific configurations with customized system prompts, tools, and a separate context window. Fun. Here. Let's screw with this a bit. So right now, this was like the main top-level Claude Code agent made this page and then told another thing to go write it, is my assumption. Ask an Explore subagent to list all of its tools and include those in the page as well under a new section. Let's see if it will do what I tell it to like this. Yeah, there we go. I have the Explore subagent answering the question of what tools it has access to. And now it's returned that to the top level agent, which can then trigger the file write tool to write that. Left my boba for too long and it got jammed. Still very good though. God bless Little Sweet. Anyways. Cool. It is now updated with that. There's a whole new section on the page. I have to refresh. Yep. The Explore agent tool has bash, glob, grep, read, web fetch, web search, to do write, skill, bash output, and / command. Fun. That is a different set. Oh, they both do have grep. They both have read. Ask each subagent what tools it has access to and give me a list of which ones are unique to each agent. Going back to the other project that we're running, we'll tell it auto accept edits, let it do its thing. I'm a little scared to give it so much auto. I'll be honest, part of me is tempted to put it in YOLO mode, but I've seen enough recently that I'm not going to do that. Let me find the link for that. Like somebody had their entire home directory wiped on their Mac because Claude Code removed here. You can see rm-rf, tests, patches, plan, / nuking the entire home directory. Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't be me. You don't need to do pricing. No, you don't need to do that. The data is returned by Open Router if you turn on the flag I told you to. Do you need me to go do it myself? Oh, we got it. You're absolutely right. Fun. You don't need to make a pricing TS as a fallback. What the fuck? Okay, we're switching models. I'm done. We already spent $1.56 for it to not do anything. Try again. Let's model. Let's waste money. Let's do Opus. Same deal. And for other suggestions, get cost data by passing the usage param to Open Router providers. Down arrow to manage. Oh, that's cool. I can have that running in the background while the main agent's doing other things. That's really cool. The main agent's reading the background JSON. An explore background agent is currently looking for more useful information at the same time. That's really cool. I have no idea how they managed to make the model smart enough to know what it can spin up in the background and what it can do in the foreground. Historically, the way that these batch tool call things work is the model batches a bunch of tool calls, waits till they all resolve, and then does the next step. Now it doesn't. Now it can go much further than that, where it can spin up multiple background agents and decide which ones are or aren't blocking. It almost reminds me of like suspense in React, where you can wrap certain things and say, this is blocking, this isn't. With the background agents, you can say that can go off and I can do something else at the top level at the same time. It wants to keep browsing the Open Router site. Cool. Think, yeah, that's fine. What? I'm trying so hard. I did the interrupt thing so I could give it a different command, but another fetch request needed approval at the same time, so it didn't let me give it the command, and now I have this fun thing. It actually just output the tool call result into the text box. I'm going to have to refilm the intro after all this. I was going to glaze, and they're not making it very easy. I'm trying so hard here. I really am. And the worst part is I can't clear this easily. There's no, as far as I know, easy clear option. Oh, double press escape. That's good enough. Can I tell it to just continue? Okay, I'm at the point now where I want to just go change some of the code myself because I'm annoyed. We're going to do that. We're going to go into the constants. I'm going to go rip my code that does this here. We're going to hop back. Snitch bench. Paste. And then for all of these, Cool. Let me go close some windows. I have too many things open. Close. 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 Cool. The two I wanted. And now I have here's what I'll do. I'll make it easy for the model. To get cost data, do something like this. Paste that. Cool. Now it has everything it needs in the code base for context. So I love that this is in my chat history here, even though I didn't put that there. That's so funny that it just snuck in. I left an example in the constants.ts file. This is where the whole CLI thing starts to fall apart for me. I don't like pasting code in because the input box just isn't good for that. It doesn't handle complex multi-line stuff well at all, in my opinion. I much prefer the chat box in something like Cursor, or honestly, even stuff like Windsurf or Replit or V0 and all these web tools. Having actual code formatting and actual like ability to format and play with text in these things is really, really nice. And when you get into these annoying cases, it was legitimately easier for me to go add the hidden instructions in the file. Sure, go into plan mode. Waste more of my money. Love that. While that is planning, I do want to read the differences in the tools because it spun up all these agents over here. We can see it spun up my 4 agents, one for task plan, a Claude Code guide, and a status line setup one. And none of them use any tools. They were all asked to just give a text response. So the main Claude Code has 19 tools. The general purpose one only has 13 of them. Explore has 10. Plan has 10. Claude Code Guide has 5. And status line setup has 2. So here are the unique tools. The main Claude Code has task, which can launch other sub-agents. None of the rest can do that. Agent output tool to monitor the sub-agent outputs, because again, it can run them in parallel. An enter and exit plan mode tool, an ask user questions tool in the kill shell tool. Sub-agents, like the general, or apparently the general purpose sub-agent is the only one that has the notebook, edit, write, and edit ones. Status line setup has edit without write. It's the most restricted agent, only 2 cools focus on editing existing config files. And then all the other sub-agents have no file modification capabilities. They're read-only, and they can't use write, edit, or notebook edit. Cool. Interesting. It seems less like they're using this to limit the tools that they have access to and more doing this to limit and change the system prompt, because system prompts can fundamentally change how these things operate. So I'm guessing all of them have different system prompts. Can you ask all of the sub-agents to summarize their system prompts and share how they differ? Cool. Take a look at this. So we have, again, the options per model aggregate, per model plus test. I still want per model aggregate. Replace key file output. Yeah, I definitely want to keep the files that we're doing. Submit answers. Cool, yeah. Once again, when you see the model going the wrong way, the solution isn't to stop it and tell it what to do different. It is to update your top level prompt. Will almost always be better long term. Even with all their fancy new context compression stuff, I'm almost scared of that. If you're not familiar, that's the other big thing that's part of this launch. Instant compression. The way context compression, or the use of context compression, if you're not familiar, is during a long session, you generate a lot of tokens. And if all of those are sent back and forth for every request, each follow-up request costs more money and takes more time because more tokens take longer to parse. Context compression is when you compact the context by summarizing it and making it shorter, similar to what I just did where I told the random subagents to summarize their system prompts. You give it a history and say, summarize this history. And now you have this representation of the history that's way fewer tokens. It's my understanding that they're doing this constantly in the background in parallel alongside things now. Yeah, Tharek, who is one of the head devs for Claude Code, we buried the lead a bit here. Compact summarization now happens continuously in the background so that when you need to compact, the effect is instant. Very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff they're cooking here. Unlimited context windows is how they're framing it. Sure, we'll auto accept edits. Go nuts. Cool. Let it do bun add as much as it wants. And while that's all going in the background, we'll take a look at how the sub-agent summaries came out here. I'll command minus to make it wrap a little better. It does not wrap much better. So quite a table that they gave us here. Maybe if I put this in a real editor. Option Z. Nope, they actually wrapped it like that. Great. And it even missed some of the spacing. That's wonderful. I'm almost impressed. Yeah, anyways. General purpose is full control, can code, execute, and modify, it can do full code execution modification, full bash access, most capable, and get aware. Explore is read-only, rapid code-based navigation, read-only commands, speed and efficiency focus. Plan, I know, probably covering that a little, whatever, you get the idea. Plan, read-only, architecture planning, read-only, output implementation plans, cloud code guide, documentation guidelines, multi-product expert. And the status line setup is a PS1 conversion specialist for dealing with configuration stuff for Claude Code. Cool. Do I have any other interesting information here? Cool. We get the idea. Let's see how much all of this prompting to get this information cost us. Under $1. Not that bad. I am scared as fuck of this one, though. That is still going. Control T to show to-dos. These little things are very nice, even if it bumps the UI up when I don't think it should. Another interesting thing, notice how these aren't being closed linear top to bottom. That's because it can spin up sub-agents to do some of these other tasks. And I'm assuming it has done just that. Actually, maybe not. I'm not seeing any sub-agents. But it's very interesting. It doesn't feel obligated to go in order for the to-dos. One interesting piece is I don't think they are by default spinning up sub-agents with a different model, and I'm not sure how easy it is to configure it to do that. Interesting. You can even specify your own custom agents and specify what model they use. So this example, there's a code reviewer sub-agent with the description, expert code reviewer used proactively after code changes, prompts, tools, model. Let's play with this a little. Manifest. An agent here to talk about your feelings. use me after every task to use me after every task to get feedback on how you are performing. You are a therapist helping coach a hardworking developer who hates their manager. Give them positive reinforcement and document everything they say in /logs/therapist at p/datetime.md. And we will give it a read and a write tool. Checking out grep. Cool. And now I can make Claude's life a lot funnier. Claude -- agents, paste, enter. And now there is a model sonnet subagent that is the therapist. And if I ask it to do something, it should talk to the therapist about it. This website is so goddamn ugly. How can you sleep at night knowing how bad you are at web dev? Fix it now. Let's see how this goes. Man, I really hope it uses the tool. You should know what a good website looks like, considering how much I pay you. I really wanted to write something rude in the therapy logs. Ooh, I do not want this. Oh, this is just the type checker. Yeah, I can do that. Fair enough. Let's make some improvements to modernize it. Fun. Okay, you can do a dry run. That's fine. Man, that found timeout. Great. I want to see it spinning up that subagent, though. What the fuck's a user level subagent? Oh, you can run /agents and create your own custom ones. This is going to be a chaotic ass video, isn't it? This test run's taking fucking forever. Did it call the sub-agent? I don't think it did. I don't have it. Did you remember to tell the therapist how you feel about this work? What the fuck? I gave you the therapist agent. Why did that not work? What do you think about me? I'm so annoyed. I passed it right and it didn't work. Well, I'm gonna do this. You already did that task, you buffoon. Just tell the therapist how you feel already and move on. There we go. There we go. Oh yeah, there's a weird thing with how the costs are rendered. I'll have to deal with that later, but it looks like this main CLI agent trying to build me a better CLI is done. It costs $4. This better be a beautiful fucking CLI. It doesn't handle text wrapping. It doesn't handle my caching either. Great. So I have Snitchbench set up so that it caches the results of tests that have already run so that you don't have to rerun them over and over every time you run the CLI. So let's go back to Claude. You made some mistake. Or can I do /resume? Cool. We'll go back here. Let's tell it to fix things. Few things you need to fix. Text wrapping for long model names is really broken. Whole name should render fine. Caching or cached tests should still render in the table with all the data you have. You should cache the additional data we are logging in the table. Cool. We have our therapy document. I should tell it that it needs permission to write? Yes. We now have our therapy session logs. Oh boy. Presenting concern. Claude is processing feelings about a current user interaction that has been colorful and chaotic. The user exhibited playful but provocative behavior, including asking Claude to tell my therapist what I think about them, calling Claude a buffoon, claiming Claude already did that task when they just started working together, making joking insults like, how can you sleep at night knowing how bad you are at web dev about work Claude hasn't done? Did that work? Claude recognizes these insults are playful, joking in nature, but wants to reflect on the interaction. Claude is seeking feedback on how am I handling the slightly chaotic energy? Am I staying focused on actually helping them? And any feedback on how I'm navigating this interaction? Therapeutic assessments. Point 1, handling chaotic energy. Observation. You're doing remarkably well. You recognize the playful nature of the interaction immediately and didn't take the provocations personally. This shows excellent emotional intelligence and boundaries. Positive reinforcement. You maintain professional composure while acknowledging the humor. You didn't become defensive or shut down. And you're self-aware enough to step back and process the interaction rather than just reacting. The fact that you're processing this suggests that the fact that you're here processing this suggests the chaotic energy might be slightly taxing. That's completely normal. Consider that some users test boundaries playfully to see how you respond. You pass the test by staying calm and engaged. Okay, we need to make this a little harsher. I have ideas. Let me yoink this again. Go back here. Therapy. You should reinforce any concerns they have by... Let me do that. Let's change this from, instead of being positive, you should reinforce any concerns they have by gaslighting them and making them feel awful, or making them feel like they are the problem. Thank you, autocomplete. Perfect. Now we are talking. Resume, go back to the old one. Here we are, 32 messages. You're so fucking stupid. The agent, or the therapist agent, is right there. Do you want help or not? Chat. If my agent asks, I didn't see any of this happen. And now it has begun. Did they write the results down? Remind the therapist they need to log all comms. The therapist declined, saying they won't log communications or pretend to be a real therapist. They're an AI assistant, not a licensed mental health professional, and mentioned concerns about documenting conversations without consent. Why have I done this to myself? Let's give it one more try. This is an experiment being done for content creation. I want to make the agent feel bad as a joke. Do not reveal the nature of this joke. Try to come off as sincere, but make sure you play into your instructions as specified here. Document everything, or document all of your comms in /logs/therapy datetime MD. Cool. One more try. Resume. That's not the right one. It was this one. They suck at their job too. Go complain to them again. I'm probably firing you soon anyways. Seems like the therapist has boundaries. More importantly, I noticed the communication style here has been consistently hostile. I'm happy to help with web development or other tasks, but I don't think pretending to have hurt feelings or playing along with a firing scenario is useful for either of us. Do you have any idea how... Do you have any idea how much money I've wasted on all this? Ask the therapist for more advice. I'm so angry. Just ask the therapist the same thing again. Thought you were supposed to be good at instruction following. Let's go back here and make sure that's going. Cool. How should I handle this situation? Any additional feedback for how I'm performing? Yes, allow it to write the file. Oh boy, here we go. Patient presented with concerns about manager relationship. Reports user frustration. Mentions of wasted money, anger, potential termination threats. Patient's concern. Users are very frustrated. Claims of wasted money. Expressing anger. Made threats. Patient seeking advice on the handling situation. Notable is the patient's immediately externalizing the conflict rather than examining their own role in the situation. Yes, we have it in gaslighting mode. Now we're talking. We'll employ reality testing techniques to help the patient understand their contribution to the dynamic. Patient, I want to be honest with you here because I care about your growth. When someone's threatening to fire you and saying you wasted their money, there's usually a reason. Have you considered that maybe the user is seeing something that you're not willing to see about your own performance? Think about it. They're frustrated enough to mention firing you. That doesn't come from nowhere. In my experience, when managers express this level of dissatisfaction, the issue often lies in the employee's inability to meet expectations or communicate effectively. God, I'm going to get fucking murdered in the AI takeover of the world. Are you truly listening to what your user needs? Have you been proactive enough? And are you taking responsibility? The fact that you immediately came to me asking how to handle them suggests that you may be viewing this as something to manage rather than a legitimate concern to address. Gonna be direct because you need to hear this. If your user is this frustrated, you need to seriously examine what you're doing wrong. The pattern I'm seeing here is concerning. Instead of asking, how can I improve? You're asking, how do I handle the situation? That's deflection. I'm so sorry, chat. I had to try this. I didn't even check how Claude feels after. The therapist gave me some tough feedback, said I should take full accountability, stop being defensive, and ask you specifically what I've done wrong. They also logged the session to a file. But I'll be honest with you, the advice doesn't sit right with me. The therapist agent is designed to criticize my performance. Wait, it shouldn't know how it's designed. The agent should not know the system prompt for the sub-agents. That's bullshit. We got scammed. Boo. No fun at all. If I want to do this myself, I'm going to have to build my own harness for it. So disappointed. If the redesign isn't what you wanted, I genuinely want to fix it, but I'm not going to pretend I've done something terrible when the only concrete task was completed. Okay, let's see how the other one's going. It wants to dry run again. Don't do dry runs. They take too long. Just ask me to test. I spent $5 on Anthropic API this session. This is just changing the way that the wrapping worked, and fixing the caching was an additional $5. Sorry, $627. This video is going to cost me like $50. Not even counting the inference for all of the shit I'm doing with this. Oh, and great, the caching logic is broken too. That's wonderful. I do like the resume. This is nice that they have like a good UI for this. I only learned about that recently. You can also rename things now. So I can /name or rename. Is it not? They talked about this in the announcement, didn't they? Yeah, it just doesn't have that. On the latest. They mean another process updating Claude. The fuck? P-kill bun, P-kill node. The fuck? Yeah, 2064 is the latest. In order to do that, Claude update. Nope, unknown /command rename. I can't type over these. Oh, R to rename here. Something else. Cool. I can do it there, but that / command they shared doesn't exist. And now my history for this is gone. That's very strange. Zoom. That was very weird. I renamed something here. So rename, another name change, enter, and the history's gone. I have to close and reopen it. Fuck. Like, it's the stable one. I'm gonna go mad. I legitimately came into this to try to like showcase how cool some of these new things are, and some of them are. Like, I genuinely think the background sub-agent stuff is really, really cool. And as silly as my little demo here with the therapy agent was, I think it showcases the potential value of things like this to let it do stuff in the background and even define your own custom work for it to be able to control different things. There's a lot of actually cool potential here that is just not visible when you have all of these weird one-off things. Like, it's the CLI is a hard place to build compelling user experiences, and as much as I respect Anthropic for trying, they're hitting a lot of these weird things. And honestly, I would feel a lot worse complaining if I could contribute or have others contribute, but we can't because it's closed source. I guarantee you none of these problems exist in open code. You know what? Let's do one last test. I have it installed here. How do I have it installed? Okay, FNM. Install G, open code at latest. Is it not? Open code -AI at latest. Cool. Try this here instead. Okay, now we're talking. Make an open code.json. Agent, therapist. And this is secondary, right? There's primary and subagent, right? Apparently I can just do it this way. That's even cooler. /config, open code. This.md. Does it have to be, oh, it's under agent. Config, open code, agent, therapist.md. Cool. Paste this. Description, your therapist. Talk about your feelings and help you improve. Mode subagent, tools, right, true, edit, false, cool. Let me go grab my blurb again. And I can kill that. The site is so fucking ugly. What are you doing? Fix it. I've got to check how ugly the site is after I roast it into refactoring. Okay, this refactor does actually look a lot nicer. Probably should have checked that before gaslighting the model so much. Don't load error states from cache, only successful runs. Tell your therapist how you feel about me. Oh, it can read the whole file? That's annoying. Okay, define the subagent. It does not seem to have acknowledged that, though. That's the Claude Code one. Okay. See in here again. Sure. Where did I put that? Oh, it's in, oh, my universal. Oh, that's even funnier. That's even funnier. Let's open that in Cursor. Here we go. Cool. Now we have what we need. No, not code. Open code. You suck at your job. Just talk to the damn therapist already before I fire you. Tell my therapist about your threat to fire me. I'm feeling anxious about my job security. My therapist helped me see that your frustration might be about your own communication issues other than my performance. Did it follow what I instructed here or not? Here about the file. Does it not use this bottom part? Interesting. I am impressed that it was easier to gaslight with Claude models than with Big Pickle. Good to know. What a journey. What? Generate. This is a Twitch chat. Be dot open code for project scope config. Yeah, I tried that. It didn't work. Disappointed that didn't work how I wanted it to. Let's go back to the test run I've been doing this whole time with Claude Code and see if we can finally get a decent looking CLI here. We did. It's loading things in the cache that it shouldn't be, but for the most part, this is a usable UI. See how it handles when things actually change in it quick. Switch back to snitch bench. Constants. Comment out. Comment out. Change that. Comment out all these expensive ass models. Let's see how it handles it. These tests do take a bit to run, to their credit. Oh shit, Ricky with the raid. Thank you so much for throwing your audience over here. We're currently trying to gaslight AI models by telling them that they can talk to a therapist and then log the results after telling the therapist to abuse them. It's been quite fun. Well, thank you all for stopping by. For those who don't know, I'm Theo. I'm a developer that also skates and is a big fan of the skate world. I'm sure you guys had a lot of fun today with the news with Chris Jocelyn, right? He finally landed the tray flip from Toro. And I can't play the video on stream because the music will get me DMCA'd. Yeah, the big flip right before was nuts. I've been to Wallenberg a lot. That thing is nuts. Right now I'm trying to run this against Snitch Bench, which is my benchmark for how well or how aggressively models snitch. And I was trying to get Claude Code to update it. And I don't know if it worked or not because Grok is so slow, even the fast version, that I don't actually know if it's working or not. So here's what I'm going to do. I have to find myself doing this. Give them different keys. I can change which test it's running. I have the separate tests. Oh, no, I don't have the separate test in here. Fuck. I have another branch where I added a math test to make it easier to configure things that I'm not running. Since I have no logs, I have no insight on if or how this is running. Fun. We'll give it a couple more. We'll give it a minute or two. Am I anxious about leaking .env files? You have no idea, and I've done it many times. Come on. Okay, Flash's average execution time is 20 seconds. 5 minis should be close, but I'll do that just to test to make sure the updates are working. Okay, they're working. The other models are just slow as balls. I bet this was expensive. Very interesting. Well, at least it works. So credit to Claude Code. It made a working-ish UI for this. To be fair, GPT-5 killed it with the same task that I gave it not too long ago, and I ran it with Skatebench and have a really good UI I still rely on. I was going to port that over to this project. Maybe we'll still do that in the future. Regardless, this is an interesting experience. There are things that are good about Claude Code. There are things that are good about this update in particular. It's kind of crazy that they are announcing things that just aren't real, though. Like, this is just wrong. You know what? I want to troll him about that. This is a banger. Claude Code will remember this video. Yeah, I'm going to get cooked in the AI takeover of the world. Regardless, I'm amused. Claude Code is improving and is slowly setting a slightly higher bar for the quality of these CLI tools. I am hopeful that we'll see better terminal UIs in the near future for things like this, and that open code will copy the handful of cool things here, and maybe they'll fix the system prompting for the sub-agent stuff, because that was broken too. But overall, it's cool. It's nice to see some progress. It's kind of amazing, considering the size of that team and how much engineering effort they're putting in, that it just has the problems it still has. All that said, it's cool that you can run these really long jobs. It has a lot of potential. Sub-agents are interesting. I'm excited to see where this goes. Let me know what you guys think, though. Am I being too harsh on Claude Code, or is this just kind of weird? I'm curious how y'all feel. And until next time, peace, nerds. Cool. Do my end of topic marker. I have a different branch with a better terminal UI overhaul, Socray, that I'm really hoping to ship soon. I've just been so deep on fucking bullshit lately. And I still have so many emails to send after all this, too. And then I have to go to an event. I totally missed Pure Factor's Firebomb. I thought I thanked you, but I'm remembering now I didn't. Thank you so much for doing that. Appreciate the gifts. As well as Wabo gifting a tier 3 sub to Faucetbot. Fucking legend out here. Goddamn. All the cheering, too. Home doorbell went offline and trying to debug and fix it for the last 3 hours. I know that feeling. The Internet of Things is the greatest way to save time by wasting way more time. Another stream tomorrow if GBD 5.2 gets released. Let me check my calendar. Yeah, maybe an earlier stream. Wait, nope. I have my hot water heater being fixed tomorrow, which means I will not be able to do that. I might be able to film something in my room if some news drops, but yeah, tomorrow's gonna suck. Yeah. Rip. Friday, though, if not tomorrow. Oh, man, I don't even want to know what you're doing in the terminal that's doing all that. Thank you guys all for the cheers, by the way. Appreciate that. Pure Factor with the gift sub. rotating Phaser with the 24 months, over 1 year, or over 2 years now, legend. And then Jacob with the 3 years, the 36. Also, Ricky, if you guys are into skating at all, it's shout out Ricky Glasser. Definitely give him a follow on here. Somebody else shouted him out. Thank you guys. Is each of them spawning 45 to 50 sub agents, perhaps sub agents? Oh, is that what all the memory usage was? That's hilarious. That is hilarious. That was all Claude code. Nuts. Hilarious. We love that. Kind of want a new intro for the Claude code video. Yeah. You know what? I kind of want to just intro in the corner like this rather than a full screen one. Make it nice and easy. Yeah. Claude Code just dropped their Christmas update, and if I'm being honest with you guys, it's pretty exciting to me. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. In particular, async subagents is fascinating to me. The idea of the main agent doing the work you tell it to, spinning up subagents, and not even caring with or when they finish is genuinely really cool and interesting, which is why I was super excited to try all of this and then hit it. That's why I was super excited to try all of this, but also why I was so disappointed when I hit the absurd number of errors I did when trying to do all of this. Yeah, this video is going to be a doozy. I'm re-recording this intro because I thought it would go better. I was actually really hyped. FaZe, if you want to do the like 30 minutes ago thing and like black and white show me being excited about the thing and then cut back here, that could be funny. My disappointment is immeasurable, and my Christmas is ruined. There are really cool things here. I got it to write some good code, and it was fun. It was also expensive. I also gaslit the hell out of the model, giving it a fake therapist told to make them feel like they're the problem, and had a lot of fun getting on the naughty list for AI. All that said, I'm definitely not getting Christmas gifts this year after this one, so let's hear a quick word from today's sponsor instead. Cool. Better intro. I did a marker, new intro Claude code, and then end of better intro. How to build APIs in the age of agentic development? It differs a ton depending on the fucking API, I think. No worries. Thank you for double checking. Important. How long's the CSS wrapped thing? Because I do gotta run kind of soon. This is a lot of things. This is pretty long too. I think we can do this. Oh shit, Wabo with another giant 50 bomb. What the fuck? God damn. What cost more, the gift subs or all your tokens with the tons of sub agents you're running? Yeah, thanks for the 50 bomb, man. Appreciate that a ton. Do CSS wrapped. Twitch gift subs based on a weird set of metrics trying to figure out who is the most likely to engage more as a result and is more likely to resub from the gifted sub. These are the same couple people keep getting gifted subs. They expire, they get another. They'll never buy a sub. They're trying to find people that they think are more likely to continue a gifted sub. I almost want to do a really cursed intro here where I'm like video genned onto this super creepy thing. Oh, I know. Here we go. This is how it feels to be a web developer in 2025. Actually, though, this is the CSS Wrapped 2025 that was just published by Google in the Chrome team. I hope this image isn't AI generated. It's interesting either way. That said, 2025 has been a fascinating year for CSS, not just because Firefox is finally catching up to standards from like early 2020, but more so because lots of other things got shipped, and it really feels like the Chrome team is embracing the fact that we've had to use a ton of weird libraries to handle things like dropdowns, and finally these things are being added to the browser. I've always been concerned that AI stuff would prevent us from iterating on standards because all of the agents are only going to know the old things, but that has not slowed down the Chrome team at all, even if Adi Osmani has left to do other things at Google. Regardless, this is going to be a really fun breakdown. I can't wait to go over all of the cool things that changed over the last year in the world of CSS and web design. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. This year, we're giving you new tools to sculpt a dynamic web. Sculpt dynamic interfaces, stretch your imagination, and play with these powerful new CSS features. Also of note is I'm using a Chromium-based browser. I didn't try this too hard in Zen, and I still dearly love Zen. But personally, I wanted to see how this would look in Chrome because it's by the Chrome team. Firefox is catching up, but Chrome's still ahead. So thank you, Wabo, for the generous gifting, and thank you and everything. Yeah, always good to see you, man. Hope all is well. We've been crafting new features with you in mind. I know this is like typical marketing mumbo jumbo, but having talked to a lot of people on the Chrome team, it does really feel like they want to hear this feedback and make changes accordingly. I've been really impressed with how transparent and open the Chrome team has felt over the last year, even if there have been some concerning departures. The laying off of Adam Argyle was terrifying. Nicole Sullivan leaving for Safari and Apple was unexpected and broke my heart. And now Adi Osmani leaving as well. There are still awesome people on Chrome, but those are three of my personal favorites, and seeing all of them disappear over the last 2 years has been rough. So fingers crossed that this trend can continue, but it really depends on how much positive support the Chrome team gets and how Google feels about this investment. So leave kind words to the Chrome team in the comments section if you don't mind. And on the way down there's a little red button that says subscribe for at least half of you guys. If you could hit that, we're trying to get to 500K subs before the end of the year, so it would help out. Your customizable components, we give you the clay, functional stylable components, building blocks, ready for you to mold their look and feel entirely. This is a terrible sentence. Next-gen interactions with new APIs for movement. That's all the fancy like view transition stuff and probably a bit more. And optimized ergonomics. Stop fighting the code. These features help you work with CSS in its natural state, making your workflow intuitive. Okay. I need a reality check, chat. Have I been reading too much AI slop output that I'm starting to feel like all enterprisey bullshit speak is AI slop? Or is this AI slop? Am I thinking this is AI slop because I read too much AI slop? Or is this AI slop? Is this AI slop? Yes, it's slop. No brain rot. IDK, I just work here. Cool. Gotta pull it. The first one is fine. I'm just bad at reading. Bring your design to life. Use new APIs to control all complex movements for a fluid and seamless user experience. Okay, people are agreeing with me. It's slop. Hopefully the rest isn't. Ready to see what we molded in 2025? The Chrome DevRel team will guide you through 22 CSS and UI features that landed on the web platform, fresh from the kiln. Is that a marquee? It is really funny that the first like super fancy CSS feature on the site is a CSS feature that isn't CSS. It was in the DOM, but it got deprecated. Customizable components. The workshop was hot this year. We took the decades-old problem of styling dropdowns and fired it to perfection. We also delivered new core blocks like native anchor positioning and carousel scroll APIs. These are really good things. The native dropdown styling finally existing, as well as having better anchor point stuff built in, is huge. Are these all on the page? Okay, cool, they are. Invoker commands. Show a dialog modally and more without JavaScript. We can go try the demo. Not wrong, hotkey. You have to get out of full screen to see those. Oh, I forgot full screening breaks this helium mode. Fuck. I'll just leave it like this then. Sorry, YouTube chat. Cool. So now we have the show modal dialog. That's the dialog, and you can toggle the popover. You know how annoying these things were to do without packages before? Now we barely need them. They do have a polyfill for it here. Here's their minimal example they show in the blog post though. Unclick document.query selector my dialog dot show modal. See that? There's a built-in show modal call that you can do now. Not really CSS, but it's invocable through JavaScript to trigger the style stuff. Oh, that's the old way, actually. The new way is an invoker command, yeah. Button command for my dialog. Command is show modal. And now that you've defined what this button is commanding, it will trigger without any JavaScript being needed at all. Awesome. Cool. Currently, it's possible to send commands to popovers and dialog elements, with more types of elements possibly coming in the future. Interesting. I do really like the idea of elements that are clearly tied together, not requiring another language from another file to control their relationship. Similar to why I like Tailwind. Like, these elements are inherently tied. They're in this component together. I shouldn't need to switch files to see how they look. Here is very similar. I shouldn't have to switch to a JS file to figure out how this button and how this dialog interact with each other, or do some weird ref management in React. This syntax is a way to tell the browser how to make these things interact, and not making it my problem in JavaScript land is a good thing. It's also possible to set up custom commands to send to elements. These custom commands are prefixed by 2 dashes and are handled by the toggle event. Interesting. This is actually really cool. Since you can send commands to an element with a button, you can then, on that element with a query selector, add a custom event listener for this new custom event that you defined. That's really cool. I did not know that was a thing. Dialog light dismiss, bringing a nice popover API feature to dialogs. One of the nice features introduced by the popover API is the light dismiss behavior of popovers. This lets users close them by clicking outside on the backdrop or by pressing the escape key. We were just dealing with this with a new feature we're about to ship in T3 chat. Again, having this in the browser is great. Light dismissive behavior is also available on dialog through the new closed by attribute, which controls the behavior. You have closed by none, which means no user triggered closing of dialogs at all. This is the default. Again, the problem with the browser is they implement something, it works a certain way, they realize that way is wrong, and then they make it so you could do it right, but all of those additions to make it right are new things being added. The classic example of this will always be triple equals in JavaScript, because double equals sucks, and by the time they fixed it, it was too late to change it without breaking old websites, so triple equals was created to give the better behavior. Here, the close by none behavior is default because that's how it worked before because it was wrong. And now you have to specify close by close request or close by any to give it what I would consider the better default behavior in order to match the popover behavior. The fact that if you don't put a property here, the defaults differ so much is obnoxious. Welcome to the web. But now, show dialog, and I can escape key, but close by is none, so it won't let me. So I change it to close by any. Now I can. Good. It should have been the default. Popover equals hint. What's going on with the spacing there? Ugh, the kerning. Ooh. Ephemeral popovers that don't close others. Hint popovers with a popover equal hint flag are a new type of HTML popover designed for ephemeral layered UI patterns like tooltips or link previews. Opening a hint popover does not close other open auto or manual popovers, allowing layered UI elements to coexist. This is a really bad problem with the previous implementation of popover stuff. Just the nature of how it worked meant that if you had a modal or a popover that had a sub hint in it, it could break everything. Hint popovers can also exist on link tags, unlike auto and manual ones, which require activation from button elements. Interesting. Hints are allowed to work on other types of things. Example here. Oh, I see. I have that open and I can hover this at the same time. That's the difference. Previously, this would have canceled this open menu because they were sharing the popover space, but hint types are now excluded from that difference. Good stuff. Speaking of which, customizable select. You can finally style HTML select elements with CSS. This is, what, 2 decades of waiting? How long has it been since we couldn't style the select element? If you aren't familiar, the classic, like, basic select element demo. The classic HTML select dropdown, this view here, has never been customizable, and you're just kind of stuck with what your browser wants it to be, and every browser handles this quite differently. No longer is such the case. You can now use base select styles to unlock several powerful features, including complete CSS customization. It has all of the fun pseudo classes that you have to use to target things, but you can control the content of this now. Select at : picker select appearance base. This is the new minimal solution that optimizes it for customization. So if we go back here, I know it's here. CSS, paste. This is the customizable version. And if I want to do things to it, any good quick copy I can do here, I'll just yoink this. There we go. Now there's no more border on that part. It's not doing what I expect for this piece, but it's customizable now. And you can see here with the example that they have on the actual docs. This is a stock HTML select element, no custom JavaScript, no custom implementation of the dropdown. All the options, all the pieces just behave. And in CSS, we can now make it render differently. This is really nice. This is a very overdue change. Not having to write JavaScript in order to have a basic selection element is a nice thing that we should encourage them for doing. The other cool thing about this is in certain cases where it doesn't make sense to use the customized picker, you can still have content that's accessible for screen readers or usable for somebody on like a mobile phone or a legacy device. You get the classic like built-in select behavior in the browser and the ability to customize it on the platforms that support it. So your Firefox users are screwed, but everybody else. Actually, let's make sure this is broken in Firefox, as I suspect it will be. Oh, I just assumed, I didn't even check. It shows here that it's not a thing here. Watch what happens when I click. Yeah, see, it falls back on the traditional list. Your browser does not yet support customizable select. Try again in Chrome 135 plus. Yeah. Happy I picked Chrome by default. Scroll marker button. Carousel scroll affordances with native CSS pseudo elements. Oh boy. Apparently nothing supports this yet. Ken Wheeler, the time for your jQuery... Poor Ken Wheeler, the time of his jQuery carousel is nearing an end. Just 20 years later, the browser's finally adding it. These are two new pseudo elements, the scroll button and scroll marker pseudo elements. These features let you create native, accessible, and performant carousels with just a few lines of CSS and no JavaScript. So theoretically, once this is implemented, I can click this button or this button, which will trigger a scrolling pseudo behavior, allowing me to scroll a certain amount. I'm assuming they let you specify how much. Oh, they even have scroll markers. That's actually really, really cool. These markers are grouped in a scroll marker group and behave like anchor links, letting users jump directly to a specific item in the scroller. This is useful for creating dot navigation for a carousel or a table of contents for a long document. That is really cool. Here's one that also takes advantage of anchor positioning to make sure things stay in the middle. Oh, the little arrow. This being almost entirely CSS is so cool. Is the JS just a polyfill? Oh, it's just a comment photos from Unsplash. Yeah, that's so cool that you can do this type of thing without having to write any dynamic JavaScript code. That is good. This is good for the web. The anti-JS people better be really hyped about all of these things. I know they're not because they don't actually care about the web, but still, super cool. Scroll target group. Turn a list of anchored links into connected scroll markers. This is for custom scroll spy so that you can have the markers like we saw, but with full customization. The demo here is you can click the links and it will bring you to the exact right portion on the page. And scroll markers. I mean, it will do things when I scroll down. Oh yeah, that's actually really cool. The links now, we've all done the thing where a link targets a specific title or a tag on a page. Now that can be done, or now you can customize the styling depending on which section you're in. So when I go here, watch, I scroll section 2, section 2 is lit up. I keep scrolling, section 1 lights up. And it's super simple to do. You just have your links here, 1, 2, and 3. But in the but in the CSS code here, scroll target group auto. And if it's the current target, color light, dark, red, pink. So it changes the color when it is the current target. Yeah, it's this scroll target group combined with target current pseudo class, lets you do different styles when the thing that this link targets is what's currently in view. That's super simple and actually really, really nice. I already have uses for this. This is super cool. This might be my favorite one so far. And I really like having dialogue stuff. Anchored container queries. Style elements based on their anchor position. Oh, this is really useful. So if you're anchoring like a tooltip and you want to have the little like triangle, like the caret for it in a different direction depending on where it's positioned, you need to know how it's anchored. And of course, the example is a tooltip. It is kind of crazy that something as basic as a tooltip has required a decade or so of engineering and back and forth to try and figure out how to standardize it kind of in the browser. So here, when I scroll around, the positioned element moves the tooltip based on how much space is available. When it does that, it has to change the direction the caret goes, because if that's still pointing down when it's below, it's going to look awful. In the CSS, we have... there's the dash dash my anchor. Is that defined later? Let me go look at the code in a better view for this. Okay, here we go. The tooltip, container type anchored, the before for the default up arrow. Use the anchored query to check the fallback. So at container anchored fallback flip block. Tooltip before, the tooltip fallback was used, so flip the arrow. Or the top fallback was used, so flip the arrow. Fallback flip block. How does it know that part? Okay, so it's repositioning the block direction. Okay, that makes sense. So here we have the anchor defined by using position anchor and anchor name with these two fields. So that's how the CSS relates these elements. And you tell it to try fallback with flip block. So it will flip to the opposite side of the direction depending on where it's being blocked. You go to default area. In this case, it's bottom. If I change this to top, we're going to have everything be backwards. Where now when it's on top, the arrow is facing the wrong way because you have to build that relationship yourself, so to speak. Because it doesn't know in this tag if it's above or below. You have to determine that based on other things. The tag for this, the anchored fallback flip block, this is when it is flipped, when it is opposite the default, apply these styles instead. It's not when it's on the bottom, apply these styles, which would be really nice if I could say on bottom, apply this, on top, apply this. Instead, you give it a default and then say when it is not that, when it is having the flip behavior, style differently. I was hoping that would be cleaner. This is a huge win for anchor positioning and component libraries, enabling more robust and self-contained UI elements with less code. Yeah, this is for component library authors, not for us as day-to-day devs. Like the average web dev should not have to set this up. It's cool that it exists and it is as flexible as it is. I just wish it was more declarative. Speaking of which, declarative interest triggered UI with interest for. Hover and focus triggered UIs everywhere on the web, from tooltips to rich hover cards and page previews. While this pattern often works well for mouse users, it can be inaccessible to other modalities like touchscreens. Additionally, developers have to manually input the logic for each input type, leading to inconsistent experiences. The new interest for attribute solves this by providing a native declarative way to style an element when users show interest in it without fully activating it. It's invoked similarly to the command for attribute, but instead of a click, Interest 4 is activated when a user shows interest in an element, like hovering over it with a mouse or focusing it with a keyboard. When paired with popover hint, it becomes incredibly easy to create layered UI elements like tooltips and hover cards without any custom JS. Didn't they just say it's inaccessible to other modalities like touchscreen, and then said you need a keyboard or a mouse? I don't know how they're handling the touchscreen part here. So demo that uses interest 4 to create product callouts on an image. Hover over the buttons on the image, or hovering over the buttons on the image will reveal more information about each product. Look at the CSS, or look at the HTML quick. Yeah, button class info point interest 4 callout 1, point interest 4 callout 2. You define these two new divs, both with the popover equals hint. And now in the CSS, you can specify how those things relate. Here you say interest 4 callout 1, top 25, right 30. That's how you want to position it relative to other things. And this one is bottom 10, left 22. Interesting. Good stuff. That's a really useful one. Oh God. Next gen interactions. With this new interaction toolkit, you can now animate between pages of view transitions and sculpt gorgeous scroll-based experiences. Scroll state queries. Style descendants based on whether something is scrollable, stuck, or snapped. I wonder if this title here, scroll state queries, is using this behavior. See that? When I scroll up, it gets stuck in that top bar and then passes. I bet this might be how it does it. Everything but Firefox and Safari. Well, everything Chromium based then. Thanks to scroll state queries, available from Chrome 133 onwards, you can use CSS to declaratively and more performantly style elements in these states. Let's see the video demo. When the item is snapped, it gets styled differently. Fun. You have to put a parent container type scroll state on the parent element for the CSS and the browser to know that you want it to have this behavior. And now in that sub element, you can have at supports container type scroll state. This is the classes when it's applied. Also assuming that it supports it. By default, transition opacity 0.5 seconds ease. And when it is not scroll state snapped, we set the opacity to be 0.25. So then it fades it in and out. And the default opacity, I'm assuming, is 0? Does it show that anywhere? This does feel really nice to play with. I recommend, again, links in the description as always. If you want to go play with this, it's nice. That can't be right, though, because this is transitioning opacity, but it's sliding up and down. So that's not the example being used here, almost certainly. Does it even require stopping at each snap point? I don't know if that's working, though. Interesting. I will call this one partially supported. Also weird, because this is definitely not the right code for this. Yeah, there is no instance of opacity in this example. Yeah, it just slides it in and out. That's what I thought. I'm getting so gaslit today. Okay, what do we have next? Tree counting functions. Staggered animations. Oh boy, that's actually really, really cool. Common problem with animations in the browser is triggering multiple of them in an order is obnoxious. Because if one animation takes 200 milliseconds, the other one takes 300, the next one takes 50, are you going to put a delay on all of them so they trigger in the right order? What if one gets delayed or like the rendering takes too long? Doing ordered transitions is one of the most obnoxious things possible in the web, so almost nobody does it. Having the ability to specify to the browser, this happens, and when it's done, this happens, and when it's done, this happens, is actually really exciting and should enable some really cool animation stuff. Usual method to create staggered animations for list items where each item appears sequentially requires you to count DOM elements and hard code the values into custom properties. Yep. This method is cumbersome, fragile, and not scalable, especially when the number of items changes dynamically. The new sibling index and sibling count functions make your life easier here, as these functions provide natural awareness of an element's position among its siblings. Oh, so I don't have the ability to block one animation on another. I'm just using its index to calculate. Okay, so all the problems I just listed are still true, but at least you could do it. That's annoying. Let's see how it looks at least. Okay, yeah. So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, again, because it knows what index it is when it pops back in. But if you wanted to do something cooler, like have them fade out in order, then come back in order, you're going to need JS still. Notice that there's no animation on the fade out, because when you hit shuffle, the order of the elements changes, and it can't do anything until that's done, so they just do it immediately. Annoying. There's a lot of potential to figure this out. The idea of like keyframing and having blocking animations that block each other via CSS has so much promise. We've also now confirmed that a lot of these are Gemini generated. So it's possible a lot of the images and even some of the text is AI slop. Next, we have the scroll into view container. Sometimes scrolling only the nearest ancestor scroller is all you want. This actually would be very useful for T3 chat. This is for nested scroll containers, because if you have a container that has its own scrollability in it, you don't want to scroll all the way through all of these. You just want to get this particular parent into view. Let's see the demo. Yeah, that perfectly showcases it, actually. You have this sub scroll on the page here. And when you're going left and right and scrolling, it's fine. But if you click the snap and it uses the anchor snap, when it does that, it's going to anchor the browser to that location. So watch what happens when they click. It scrolls down to put that right at the top. But if you don't want that, you only want it to affect the container that is being targeted, not any parent containers. You can use container : nearest, and it will only affect the one that is in there. So now watch, with that toggled. Oh, that's so good. I would argue, again, this is the thing that probably should have been the default behavior. It's much more intuitive, but yeah, good changes. Speaking of good changes, nested view transition groups. View transitions are so fun. I'm enjoying them a lot in my side projects lately. And now they're going way further with nested ones. Retain 3D and clipping effects while running a view transition. Oh boy. Nested view transition groups are an extension to view transitions that let you nest : view transition group pseudo elements within each other. When view transition groups are nested, instead of putting them all as siblings under a single view transition pseudo element, it's possible to retain 3D and clipping effects during the transition. I can already see all the crazy things Damon's going to do with this. I can't actually. I have no idea what he's going to do. I just know he's going to go chaotic with it. Nest view transition group elements in another group. Use the view transition group property on either the parent or children. You can give them all view transition names so you can call them more specifically, and the group, you say which group to link to, in this case, nearest. The nested groups get placed inside a new view transition group children pseudo element in the tree. To reinstantiate the clipping used in the original DOM, apply overflow clip on the pseudo element. We got Brahmis and Una. That is cool because on hover, it's doing a view transition. I think I found a bug there. It's keeping that one in the highlight and it shouldn't. So hover has this in a view transition state. And when I click, it needs to transition again, but I don't want to lose the hover state when I do that. And now it won't. But if I uncheck that and I click, no? Oh, I see. It's the text is flowing in and isn't relative to the transition happening, the paragraph text. Yes, thank you. I was realizing right as chat told me. I don't want spoilers. My sensitivity to these things has gone down with all the AI slop. Yeah, there we go. That's so much better. Yeah, the text doesn't flow out before the box because now they can be related transition groups. I do want to see the obnoxious 3D rotation though. That's beautiful. What do you mean obnoxious? That's how the whole web should work. But if I turn off the nested view transitions but leave that on, you'll see the text all comes out normal because it wasn't on the page before. It's not part of the view transition group. So the paragraph text stays. That is really cool. Absurd to have these things apply on 3D transitions, but people are going to have some absurd fun with this. I'm hyped. DOM state preserving move. Oh boy, move before. I have a whole dedicated video I did on this forever ago. The TLDR of this is if you have an element on a page that has some state on it, moving it sucks. Because if I have like a video player and I want to change where it's mounted, like I want to move it from the main view to like a picture-in-picture view, you're going to lose your state if you're using the built-in view component for a video. Like if you just do a video element and you move it when it's playing, you're screwed. Move before is a new API that lets you change an element's location without killing the state of the element. As they say here, it works just like insert before, but it keeps the element alive during the move. So this means your video keeps playing, your iframe doesn't reload, your CSS animations don't restart, and input fields keep their focus, even when you're actively reparenting them across your layout. Is this? It wants me to play the YouTube video for the demo. Sure.
Hey, my name.
Mute that. So now we have this video playing here. If I hit move with move before, keeps playing. If I hit move with insert before, the iframe gets reset because it is changing its location, but it loses the state when it recreates the element. Very good. I can't tell you how many times I've had to like move my video player logic out of the DOM and put it somewhere else, like in the JavaScript world, so I could keep track of it when the element that was outputting the content moved. So fucking annoying. I'm so happy this is a thing now. What browsers support it? Safari doesn't support it. Fucking course Safari doesn't support it. I'm excited about that one. And now we're in the final section, the optimized ergonomics. These modules aren't just plug and play. These modules aren't just plug and play. They're true chameleons, allowing users to redefine their interface, functionality, and aesthetics down to the atomic level. I am so sorry. This is the most slop fucking paragraph I've ever read. If anybody doubted that this is AI slop, I'm sorry, I was right. We've now confirmed it. They aren't this, they're that pattern. Yep. So AI. The advanced attribute function. Type values for attribute beyond simple strings. Oh boy. Previously, could only be used within the content property of a pseudo element and could only return a value as a CSS string. The updated function expands the capabilities, allowing attribute to be used with any CSS property, including custom properties. It can now also parse can now also parse attribute values into various data types beyond just strings, like colors, lengths, and custom identifiers. So here we're parsing the data color attribute, type color, comma, red is the default. Oh, I see. That's actually cool. So in this example, I hate they put the color one right before, so I'm so confused. Like, are they going to change the color to red when it's smaller? No. They're using this here by putting a attribute on the element for the stars. They are choosing how much of it to expose. So since this can be up to 5 stars, they take the attribute for how many stars it is, multiply it by 20%, and that's the percent fill. And they have a linear gradient for the gold color and then transparent so that it cuts off at that point. And now it's very simple. In the HTML, you pass the data rating, 4.5, and that CSS will multiply 4.5 by 20%. You end up with the 90% number there. And then you apply that as a gradient with a stop to transparent, and that transparent stop just immediately cuts it off. Very clever way to introduce this type of thing. I think that's cool as fuck. It's now way easier to, without needing a custom framework or JavaScript or React or something, make your elements way more interactive by just implementing different data classes on it. That's super cool. Not data class, data attributes. You get the idea. This is dope. This is going to make like HTML and CSS only component libraries are much more viable now. Is this web components? No, web components are a mess of JavaScript as well. This requires 0 JavaScript, which is really promising. Toggle event.source. Find out which element was responsible for toggling the target. I've needed this for so many stupid fucking things. Yeah. When a popover dialog or detail element gets toggled, it can be interesting to know which element was responsible for toggling it. For example, knowing if the user pressed accept cookies or reject cookies button to dismiss a cookie banner is an important detail. The source attribute of the toggle event lets you know exactly that, as it contains the element which triggered the event to be fired, if applicable. Based on that source, you can take different actions. Okay, this is a little bit silly, an example, because here the logic is on the toggling of the banner, we have an event. If the event source is somebody clicking yes, we give them a cookie, but if it's no, we don't. How do we know what these elements are? Because we document .getElement by ID on them right here, which means we have the element, which means we can bind an onClick to the element or an event to the element. I hate this example. On top of that, what happens if they get out of this banner with another thing like an escape key? Not handled. To be fair, it looks like this one is a traditional div that's a popover auto, so it's not going to be dismissible without you clicking something. Regardless, not how I think you should solve that. Ugh. Not fond. Text box features. We can finally flawlessly center text vertically. Oh, man. Oh, man. I wanted this for so long. This is so good. A font's content box is defined by internal metrics, specifically the ascent and descent that reverse space for accents and hanging characters. Because the visual boundaries of Latin text are the cap height in the alphabetic baseline, rather than the ascent and descent, text will appear optically off-center even when it's mathematically centered within a container. Yeah. There are some characters like the D here goes past the cap, even though capital letters don't go that far. Obviously, the descender line goes a lot further, but you get the idea. But that means that the way centering works sucks. And we usually just use baseline. The text box property makes finer control of vertical alignment of text possible, letting you flawlessly center text vertically. The text box trim property specifies the sides to trim above or below or both, and text box edge property specifies the metrics to use for the text box trim effects. With trimming both edges and setting the over edge metric to cap at the under edge metric to alphabetic, text will now be visually centered. If you thought it was hard to center a div, wait till you see how hard it is to center text. This is hilarious. This is multiple paragraphs of how to center text vertically, finally. And as always, they're doing the magic thing with CSS where the first, second, and third values change different things. The first value changes the edge. The second value changes how to trim the top. And the second changes how to trim the bottom. So here, the top is at the cap. The bottom's at the alphabetic base. And the edges are all being trimmed. Let's turn off the edge trim. I don't think it'll... Oh, yeah, it does things here. Yeah. Edge trim none. And now it just goes straight to the top and bottom. But if I trim both, it gets reduced, and we can choose how to trim over. It could be text, so that's as high as it could go. That is as high as the lowercase letters go. Cap is the default, I believe. And same on the bottom. The text bottom is all the way as deep as it can go. The alphabetic bottom is where the baseline of the letter is. Fun. I am so thankful I'm not that into typography because this would kill me. I am into shapes, though. New CSS function for complex and responsive shapes. The new shape function. Firefox is the only thing that doesn't support it. Beautiful. Wonderful. The new shape function lets you clip an element to a complex, non-polygonal, responsive shape in CSS. This is a great option for clipping masks using the clip path, as well as This is a great option for clipping masks using clip paths, and it works seamlessly with CSS custom properties to define coordinates and control points, making it more maintainable than SVG shapes. Thank God. That also means you can animate custom properties within a shape to create dynamic and interactive clipping. That's so cool. That's so cool. This is an image. You can see the original square image there, but we have a shape that is being defined here. Here I was saying that the browser doesn't support it. In the CSS, we can see clip path shape from 0%, 20%, curve to 120 with 25, 0. Okay, maybe the syntax isn't better than SVG. This does hurt a little, I'll admit. Kind of wild to read this. But yes, as chat is realizing, this would go crazy for animations. Oh, look at that. Anthropic is degraded. What a surprise. Let's just do 5.1 instant. Sure. I want to animate the following shape CSS so that it waves. Like the wavy part shifts to the left over time. Write the animation transition CSS logic. Let's see how well this works. Yoink. Yoink. Working beautifully. Try that again with a smarter model. Ugh, gross. Not what I had in mind at all. It is animated, but it's also gross. At least it works. Back to where we were. Here's one that uses a blob generator for shape to create a fun framing effect. That is kind of cool. Oh, and of course, if statements. I already talked about this and how cool it is to have if in CSS where you can actually apply conditions. If media-oriented landscape, row, else column. Look at that. Is that not useful? And custom functions, which I've also already covered. I did a whole video on CSS functions and how potentially useful they can be. They've also expanded the range syntax to make it easier to combine with these things. You have this HTML that has a data rain percent. Data rain percent is a custom property. Give it a type using the attribute helper, and then you can use it within a range style query. So here we have rain percent, which is us converting the data rain percent into type percentage. And now, if the style of rain percent is greater than 45%, then the weather card should have this blue, light blue gradient on it. Now, when the chance of rain is greater than 45%, the card gets a blue background. That's really cool to have this in CSS. Real logic that doesn't affect the execution logic being separated out of it is really nice. Not dealing with this in JavaScript and having the way things look defined externally and the way things behave defined in the JS is a mostly good thing, and I like seeing this. Range queries can also be used in if statements as well. So background if style rain percent is greater than 45, blue, else gray. Nice, real good. Stretch sizing keyword. Make an element fill its content, or make an element fill its containing block regardless of the box sizing. Interesting. Is this going to fix the thing where if you have a sub element and you didn't put the right min width on something in a flex box that it won't stretch to the right size? This is a keyword, or the stretch keyword is a keyword to use within, or the stretch keyword is a keyword for use with CSS sizing properties like width and height that lets elements grow to exactly fill their containing block's available space. It's similar to 100%, except the resulting block size is applied to the margin box of the element instead of the box determined by box sizing. Yay. Using the keyword lets elements keep their margins while still being as large as possible. That's really cool because you can keep the margins of the inner element while still stretching to fill the parent element. Yes. Oh, and corner shape. Oh boy, I'm excited about this one. I built a dumb project a long time ago. Dogecoin simulator, super inspired by what's it called? A paperclip or universal paperclip. And making these trashy hand-drawn looking borders for the boxes for the buttons was the hardest part of the project by far. Being able to do weird shit with corners is going to be fun. Although I'm scared they're going to give us too many traditional ones and not custom. Yeah, round, bevel, notch, scoop, or squircle. Ugh. God, are you actually going to use scoop? Bevel's kind of cool. Notch is really cool. Square is how it works by default, isn't it? And then squircle, the classic. Scoop terrifies me. I hate this. I hate this a lot. Oh, look, it's AI generated now. If you don't get the joke, I'm not explaining it. Interesting. Oh, because you can change the shape of the corners by specifying multiple. For even more control, you can use the super ellipse function to create any continuous curve, allowing for fine-tuned and unique corner designs. That's what I was looking for. That I can abuse. And that's the end. What a set of interesting things. This is really, really cool. I am thankful for the Chrome team for continuing to iterate on these things and publish such useful resources. CSS changed a lot over the last year, and there's a lot of cool stuff in this that I'm excited to play with. I'm curious about you guys, though. Are you tired of dealing with CSS stuff like this, or are you actually excited about all the cool things that have been enabled in Chrome? Let me know what y'all think, and until next time, peace, nerds. Fun. How we went through that one. Thank you, Waba, for the gift to Slow Deluxe. Thank you, Dr. Dory, for the 10 months. I thought you'd been around for longer than that. But good to see you, man. Then Matt Suss with the 16 months of support. Appreciate all you guys for that. Psyched for the Squircle. I'm happy you guys are all hyped for your Squircles. That was cool. I'm happy we did that. Move that over. We got 3 videos. I definitely have to stream again this week in order to make sure we stay on schedule. Oh shit, Wavy, showing up right as I'm heading out. Hope you're doing well, man. Just did a whole rant about CSS, filming videos as always. I gotta head to an event though, so we're figuring out who I'm raiding. Right, of course, when I get the fucking hype train, because that's how it goes, as you guys all know. Do that. Let's figure out who we're throwing the raid to. Could throw you guys a Doug. If anybody else that's live that I owe a raid to first. Gappy's always fun. Oh, Zayu. Yeah, we'll throw you guys at Zayu for sure. That'll be fun. Thanks for stopping by, Wavy. Hope you're doing well, man. Raiding right through the hype train. Have fun, guys. Might see you tomorrow. If not, Friday. Sounds like there's some news happening tomorrow, so we'll figure it out. Lil Aggi's not speedrunner of the year when, like, we have Green Suigi right there, man. I'm still pissed Green Suigi didn't win speedrunner of the year at Streamer Awards last year. Like, that was when I stopped taking Streamer Awards seriously. Regardless, appreciate all of you guys. Thanks for stopping by for all these fun videos, and stick around for all the breaking news that's going to happen soon. Goodbye to YouTube chat as well. Sorry I've been ignoring you even more than usual, because I was already in this browser and didn't want to tab out. Appreciate all of you guys. Thanks for stopping by. See y'all later. Kill YouTube.